Welcome today to Maynard Costerisan's Lunch and Learn, presented by Nick Conley and Wes Salisbury. These are two fabulous consultants of our Technology and Business Solutions Department, and they are going to give a wonderful presentation on data analytics and Power BI. So Nick, Wes, go ahead and take it away, guys.
All right, thank you, Kate. Like Kate said, I'm Nick Conley. I'm here with my colleague, Wes Salisbury, to go over the data analytics and Power BI. So to get started, I'm just going to go through a general, what is Power BI? It is a cloud-based business analytics service. Now, there is an on-premise version available, but for the purpose of this presentation, we'll be using the SaaS model. And so what Power BI does is it's a secure way to handle big data of all types, and keeping their users' data secure is a top priority for Microsoft. And you can go out to their website and see all the security certifications out there. They're all listed on their website. So what it does is it allows users the ability to model, analyze, and visualize their data. Top priority is making efficient use of your data to form better decisions. We can connect to multiple different data sources, including data warehouses, Azure SQL Server, Excel spreadsheets, and there's a huge list of other connections you can make through Microsoft, including the Business Central product. So the next question is, why would you use Power BI? Your data is valuable. Data is an asset, but it can be difficult to work with at the surface level. We like to think about this as little nuggets of gold. Those little nuggets, after you take them out of the earth, they have value in themselves. But if you mold them into bullion, it makes them more valuable. And then you then break that down into individual jewelry pieces. Crafting that gold, you can really maximize the value of your data. And that's really what we want to focus on, is crafting your data into useful reports or dashboards using Power BI. So the next hit of focus is you're already collecting more data than you think. Modern ERP solutions collect a lot of detail, whether it's through dimensional reporting, attributes on your items, customer data, vendor data, whatever data you're trying to get at, your ERP is already collecting that. You just really need to get in there and extract it and mold it into something that's useful. So next is knowing what makes your business move and making better decisions to increase that velocity. Everyone's trying to hit targets on margins. Being able to make key decisions, hitting those margins are able to increase how quickly you can reach those goals. And the last thing is that there's no coding experience required. Experience with Excel is beneficial. The better you know Excel, the better you'll be able to make use of Power BI.
Hey, Nick, actually really quickly.
Yeah.
Hi everyone, Wes Salisbury here, by the way. You don't need to tab over to the other slide, but I just wanted to add just one little thing else to that slide. So kind of behind the why of utilizing Power BI versus maybe just financial reports, or just maybe you might already have dashboards in your ERP system. But the thing about Power BI is a fantastic data exploration platform. It allows you to find out things about your company and your organization and your operations that you may not already know. Because when you think about it, when you build out, when you generate these reports that you already have built out, and you have these dashboards that are already built out, they're already built out. They're static, and they're typically looking at predefined, well-known KPIs that you've identified. But the cool thing about Power BI is that not only does it do that, but because the data and the visualizations are more interactive, it allows you to really dig into your data by way of Power BI to figure out trends and correlations that you may not have already know. So I just wanted to add that real quick, Nick, as just part of the why behind Power BI and why it's so powerful.
Yeah, not a problem. That is an excellent point. So thanks for jumping in there and stopping and giving that little value add. So anyways, getting back to the history, Microsoft has been developing products in data and business analytics for many years. all of which have culminated into this product that we now know is Power BI. Now we all know of Microsoft Excel, and their visualizations, they're okay. They're a little archaic looking. They get the job done, but not very efficiently. Now, on the flip side of that, there is the SQL reporting services, which can be very difficult to work with and usually need some coding background, the ability to code to make them shine. And so the focus of Power BI is speed, the speed in which you can model, extract, model, and create reports. And when it first came out, their whole mindset was the 5 minutes to wow. You can get in there and create a really useful report in just 5 minutes. So with the reports, you can use reports to redesign a standard ERP report that you might already be using, whether that's a standard financial report that you want to tweak a little bit to give you a little more insight, or you can go into your aging reports, whether it be on the accounts receivable or accounts payable side. And what it really does is it's able to give you better insight through visualization. Sometimes you can get stuck just looking at the numbers, but having that visualization tool, the graph, chart, whatever it may be, can be give you that really quick insight just because your eye can catch those trends. And also one thing to note is that the reports are interactive. You can click and dig in, dive into your data just at the click of a button. Really cool. So yeah, the reports, they use underlying data, whereas the dashboards, they utilize the reports. And I'm got the dashboards on the next slide. But yeah, and so let's get into the dashboards. So you can use dashboards to combine multiple reports into one sleek frame. And like I was saying, the reports, they use your underlying data, whereas the dashboards use the reports. So cool thing about dashboards, you get that real-time data upload to always have up-to-date information, and then you can use this to keep track of your most important metrics. Kind of thinking like in the example of a coffee shop, you want to keep track of your sales at any given time in order for staffing purposes. So if you know that you sell a whole bunch of coffee drinks, between the hours of 6 and 11, you may want to keep higher staffing at those hours. This really helps you keep track of your KPIs. Next is the quick insights, and this is a really cool feature using the power of business intelligence. And what it does is it allows you to harness artificial intelligence to aid in forecasting. Really what you can do is just let Power BI analyze your data for you and create these insights.
Yeah, and Nick, I wanted to add on that tab as well. Yeah, as we all know, and this has really been the case for as long as I've been doing consulting, is that there's always been talk about utilizing artificial intelligence for small and medium businesses and applying artificial intelligence in more common applications. So for a good number of years, artificial intelligence was just a buzzword that people used to sell you on things. But the thing about the 2020s, when it comes to all these software developers like Microsoft, is they're really weaving in lots of artificial intelligence stuff into their core products. So Microsoft Power BI has had artificial intelligence features since, I'm pretty sure, the beginning of 2020 is at least when I started noticing they started adding them, but they could have had them for longer. But I guess my point is that in the years, like right now, artificial intelligence is no longer out of reach. It's no longer just a buzzword that people use to get people excited about something. It's actually here, and it's still continually getting developed. So Nick, I think you probably showed some of these graphics right here that use artificial intelligence, but Power BI does monthly updates, so it's very well possible that they've added more since that snapshot was taken. So yeah, and the cool thing about, and as Nick was saying, with artificial intelligence and Power BI, it's a great platform for humans, for your end users to go in and click around, do some data exploration, and figure out and derive insights from the data. But Power BI has functionality that extracts those insights for you. And as part of our demonstration, we'll be kind of covering some of those as well. So that was just my little piece there, Nick, and you can proceed on with your presentation.
But no problem. It's actually going to go to you because I believe we have the demonstration up next. So I'm going to go ahead and make Wes the presenter.
Perfect. All right, so what I have up here is I have a demo instance of Power BI. I am actually, like Nick said, you can you do this in a SaaS, in a cloud-based environment, and you can deploy things out to a cloud-based environment. But since we are going to be doing some kind of build out, I thought it might be easier to just use the desktop client, but really the experience is real similar. But so pretty much what I have here is I have, in Power BI terms, this is considered a report. And a report in Power BI is just a collection of graphs and almost like what I like to call dashlets, where they're just like smaller pieces of the general report. And I have multiple tabs here that I'm going to be moving through. And I actually need to get my my GoToMeeting thing out of the way. So I'm going to walk through some of these, just show you some of the cool graphics that you can get and what the value of Power BI is. I also wanted to, I'm also going to show a little bit of a demonstration on how you can create your own visualizations so that you can see how simple it is to create these type of graphs. So what I have here is I have, on this particular tab, this visuals tab, I have 4 different graphics. I have one that pretty much shows my revenue by customer, another one with revenue by item name. This might also be renamed in your instance to be like line of service or department or sales region, things like that. I have a little trend line here that shows me my trend of sales with just a little, I have 2 little rows here that establish my median and mean averages for the entire time frame so that you can track what your median and mean metrics are for whatever you select. And then finally, I have another graphic over here that is revenue by customer type. So in this instance, I'm utilizing, in fact, I'm actually using some Sage Intacct data, and I'm pulling in sales by healthcare customers, energy customers, insurance customers, things like that. So you might be telling yourself, well, Wes, I mean, I already have, my ERP system or my reporting tools can already give me this. But the cool thing about Power BI is that, like what Nick said earlier, is you can click around into things and have the screen be more interactive. So let's just say, for example, I wanted to evaluate my revenue for this platform pack item or line of service. So what happens is when I select that part of the report, what it does is it filters and redraws all the figures for the rest of the charts. So I selected the platform pack item, but then I can see, well, the Santa Barbara Museum of National History, 361,000 of it is the highlighted platform pack, and they had 4.7 million of other sales. But then you can see that this pediatric subspecialty faculty customer has a larger share of the platform pack. If I select the machine learning core pack, then it redraws my figures here. Maybe I don't want to look on it. Maybe I don't want to look at everything from a line of business standpoint. Maybe I want to see things more from an industrial perspective. So let's just say I just want to see my distributions by customers in the energy industry. What it does is it highlights our customers that are in the energy industry, and then it shows, once again, it redraws our sales, our trend line when it comes to these sales, and also breaks out what their distributions of purchases are. So this is just for this is really just for graphics out on a single report. But the thing is you can do tons of these. And as you can see down here, just like with Excel, you can do tons and tons of tabs that are pulling from lots of different sources. And because of that, and even though you're pulling data from all these different places, you're aggregating it, you're making relationships amongst all that data, and then you're able to go in and do that type of exploration. So I want to move into the next tab, and then after we kind of move through these tabs, I'm going to just show a little bit of demonstration on how to set up things yourself. So like I mentioned before, Power BI is starting to really weave in some more advanced AI features. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tab over into my Visuals with AI tab. So this pretty much, this report is the exact same or very similar to the one I just tabbed over from. I still have my customer type visual, I still have my revenue by customer visual, things like that. But what I want to draw your attention to is I want to draw your attention to this box right here, and this type of visual right here. If you can even call it a visual, it's actually more of an it's an annotation, or it's a descriptor. But this type of visual right here is called Smart Insights. And what Smart Insights do is it evaluates your underlying data on what you're presenting, and then it tries to make correlations and kind of point out things that you may think of as relevant. So as an example of this, and by the way, this is demo data, so some of the metrics here might be a little funky, but you can see in natural language that, so amount in this case, so revenue trended up, resulting in this percentage increase between this day and this day. And then you can see that revenue experienced the longest period of growth between this month and this month. And then it tells you, and then it just gives you other insights like this customer accounted for 1.56% of your revenue in the total population, things like that. So I didn't have to do anything to program these insights in. I didn't type these out. Power BI created these for me. And the cool thing is just like with the other graphics types, or I'm sorry, with the other visuals types, when you select different selections and when you slice and dice using the visualizations, it gives you new insights. So it's not just like, it doesn't just apply those insights and that artificial intelligence to just all of your data. You can be specific and purposeful as to what you want it to look at. So in this case, I have it looking at the banking customer type, and then I can see my breakdowns of like, well, here is where my longest period of growth was for my revenue. This is what my this customer Premier Inc. accounted for almost 9% of my revenue. And then maybe we can, maybe I can go ahead and just run this for the machine learning core product. And then I can see here that for those clients who purchased the machine learning core, the George Thompson Law Office accounted for 0.9%. So this is what I'm saying when it comes to why Power BI is so powerful. This because it allows you, and it allows even an outside person, if you give them access to your data, or a new person to your organization, it allows them to really explore the data and find these insights and get these worthwhile nuggets, using Nick's example of nuggets from your data, refining them, and then making you think like, well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that before. And what now that you know, once you've kind of identified a trend or a correlation, now you can consider rolling that in as part of your KPI tracking. So yeah, this whole practice of extracting new insights is just really powerful because it allows you to figure out what you can be doing better as an organization, maybe where some weak points are, and how to optimize your maybe optimize your revenues, optimize your spend, and of course, optimize your net income, or if you want to think of it in a not-for-profit standpoint, you can also use this to track your outcomes on your programs and figure out what, for your more well-performing programs, what are the things they have in common that make them more effective. So, yeah, that's just one AI feature, and I'm actually using I'm using the December version of Power BI, so it's possible they've added a couple more. But the other thing I wanted to point out that's really cool. Now, this isn't necessarily artificial intelligence per se, but you can create this neat type of graphic called a decomposition tree. So the way a decomposition tree works is that it takes a more broad category, like in this case revenue, and it allows you to click into it, and then it goes down another level. So in this case, my levels are customer type, customer representative, and item name. So when I click into revenue, the full distribution of revenue, I can see what are the component parts that make up revenue. So this is where these are all the different customer industries that make up our revenue. And if I want to evaluate a particular one, like insurance, I can click into insurance, open up another layer of leaves here, and I can see here are my customer reps. So Patricia Billings had generated $8 million in revenue in the insurance for the insurance customer type. And then we can go one level deeper, and then we can figure out exactly what she sold. So, and this decomposition tree is only 3 layers deep. We have a lot more room to just spread this out. So, just as an example, in your organization, let's just say you are running a not-for-profit and you track a metric. You are tracking a metric in Power BI, or you're just tracking it in general, where that number, the higher it is, the better your programs are working, right? So you can then deconstruct that metric to figure out, show me my rate by program, and then underneath each program you can see, well, who are my individuals working on this program, and then you can just keep tagging other things that you may think are contributing to the performance of that metric. So, and of course, what I just showed you, this decomposition of revenue, this is probably going to be pretty. What I just showed you right here is probably going to be pretty close to what you might have if you work in a for-profit environment where you're selling a product and have sales reps. So, that's pretty much it when it comes to the actual pre-prepared graphics that I wanted to show you. I'm going to transition into how you can get data into Power BI and how you can create your own graphics, just so that you can get an example on how it works. So what I'm doing now is, because I already have those 3 pre-prepared tabs, now we're getting to the point where we can start building our own tab. So I just have a new page 1 here, and I added this right before the presentation, but all it is just adding a new page or adding a new tab, exactly like you would inside of Excel. But so from here, it's saying that I can build visuals with my data. It gives me a little bit of instruction here, but before I get into building visualizations, I wanted to bring your attention up here in the upper left, where it gives us this data section and some example ways that we can grab data. So, of course, right here you can see that you can import data from a Microsoft Excel workbook. That's just pretty much expected. Everything has to be able to support import from Excel. But you can also import from the Power BI service. You can set up a Power BI data set in the Power BI service, and you can use that. You can, for those of you who might be using Microsoft Dynamics GP, you probably already have an on-prem, you probably have SQL Server somewhere, and you can use Power BI to grab data from SQL Server and pull it into here. So as a matter of fact, I actually pulled Sage Intacct data, but what I did is I put my Sage Intacct data in a SQL Server database, and actually an Azure SQL, so a cloud-based SQL Server instance, and I grabbed the data from there. If all else fails, if you just can't possibly get your data in any other way, there is a fallback option where you can just type in new data or paste in the data. But before I actually go into showing you kind of what I did to get data in, underneath this Get Data tab, there's additional options right here, like the web and like CSV/text, which is probably going to be the second most common after Excel. But I want to go ahead and pop open the More option here, just because I think it's important to mention that Power BI truly connects into just so many different applications. So I haven't tried this, but it even supports import of data from a PDF. That may be interesting to see how that would look. But if you're running on an IBM database, you can pull in stuff from IBM. You can pull in, of course, anything pertaining to Azure. You can pull in stuff from Salesforce. You can pull in things from, I kind of bypassed this, I'm sorry. But if you have Dynamics 365 or Business Central, there's available connections there. So there, oh, and the other one I wanted to point out, it's in beta, but you can also connect into QuickBooks Online. So if you're running QuickBooks Online, or if you have maybe a subset of your organization running QuickBooks Online, you can use QuickBooks Online. So there's tons and tons and tons of options here. So I just wanted to make sure you all knew that just because there's just a few options here, Excel, SQL, and Power BI data sets, that you just have a ton of flexibility with how you get data in. And I'm sure Microsoft is adding more every day. I'm just not paying attention every day on it. So what I actually did was, I did this ahead of time, but I am pulling from a SQL Server and a cloud-based Azure SQL Server, and I'm pulling from my recent sources. And underneath my SQL database, I have all these different tables to pull from. I have, in this case, I have other stuff here for other purposes, but I have a customers table, I have a departments table, I have a GL details table, and I have a projects table. And what I can do, or what I've already done, is I can go ahead and select all these. I get a little preview as to what shows up. But what I can do is I can go through and just select all these things and hit load. Now, I've done this ahead of time, so I don't have to do this. But once you load the data in, what happens is it makes it so that your tables or data tables or spreadsheets, what have you, those items that you selected now show up here off to the right underneath fields. And the reason it shows up under fields is because this is where we're going to define what exactly we want to grab and drag onto the builder screen here.
Hey, Wes.
Yeah.
Yep.
We have a couple of questions.
Oh, cool.
Yep. So Neil asked, is it possible to filter the graphs on more than one metric? For example, revenue by banking sector and machining items.
Oh, so like multi-select.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm not sure off the top of my head. There is a visualization type called a slicer. I'm not sure if it's on this main screen right here anymore, but there is a little slicer visual, which essentially is a checkbox that says, oh, I want this location, this location, this location, and that kind of filters the entire. That works to filter the entire screen, but I'm not 100% sure if it will support like a compound filter at this time. Okay. So I don't know if it does that right now.
So we may have to do a little bit of research and let him know.
Yeah, well, yeah, Kate, definitely make a note and we'll follow up.
We have some other experts also on who are saying the answer is yes. So that's
Okay.
the good. We just might have to do a little research so we can show you.
Yep.
All
Cool.
right, Neil?
Great. Awesome. Thank you.
Perfect.
Cool. So just talking about building out these visuals right here. Let's go ahead. Was that the only question, Kate? Or Nick?
I thought there was 2 questions.
Yes. There's just a statement that Power BI can also be used to pull the table in from any public website if necessary.
Yep. And actually, I'm going to go back to that one because that is a good point. I just kind of skimmed over it. But yeah, you can import data from a web page as long as that website allows you to connect and you can pull that data. One thing I've actually been tempted to do is there's all these websites with baseball statistics over the years, and I've kind of been tempted to download some of those data sets and just do some fun stuff and around baseball, because I think baseball is one of those sports where it's really easy to get into the data and get really nerdy with the data. So it's a lot of fun checking out baseball stats. But anyway, with that being said, do we have any other questions before I proceed?
I don't see any additional ones. So we're going to keep going from there. Again, anyone who has questions, please feel free to add them in the question box.
Great, thank you. Thank you for the questions, everyone. Keep them coming. So what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to do a full build out maybe of each and every visual I have over here, but we can at least add a stacked bar chart. So up here under my visualizations area, there's a whole bunch of different visualizations that we have here, but the thing about it is each one of these has its own different parameters as to what it wants you to provide. Some of them want you to define the X or Y axis. Some of them want you to define a legend. So there's a lot of different combinations of things you could potentially provide when you're building these visualizations. And by the way, there's a way for you to get more visuals online, so you can download more visuals from the Power BI community if the stock ones aren't doing the trick for you. And if you know a little bit of R or Python programming, you can also build out visuals using those programming languages. So the cool thing about Power BI is if the base visualization doesn't do the trick for you, you can find someone who's already figured it out, or you can build one yourself. But nothing is wrong with just a nice basic bar chart here. So I selected my bar chart over here, and what it did was it put out it put an empty bar chart out here in my designer screen. So the bar chart is asking me for potentially a few different things. It's asking me for my axis, which in this context is going to be the y-axis, the legend, which allows us to kind of break apart our numbers a little bit more dramatically. And then it wants to know, hey, what do you want to measure? What are your values? So all I have to do is just define, what do I want as my axis? Well, I think for my axis, I kind of want to have an axis. We'll do customer type. We'll do customer type as a bar graph. So right now, nothing's going to show up because my values is empty, or my values area is empty. So I dragged and dropped my customer type field to my axis, but now I want to define my values at least. So underneath my GL details table, I want to pull in my revenue field. There we go. And just probably with other types of graphical dashboarding tools, you can alter the size of these metrics so that they can take up more or less real estate as needed. But as you can see, I very quickly created a bar graph here that allows me to see my revenue by customer type. So, so yeah, there's that. I do want to very quickly create a pie chart as well at a bare minimum. We can obviously explore more of these as needed, but let's go ahead and drop a pie chart on here. We'll put this over here. And yeah, off to the right here where you get to choose your visualizations and filters and fields and things like that, you just have to make sure you're popping these back open when you need them. But for customer, let me go ahead and have this be, let me have the legend be for customer rep. And then once again, GL details, I'll pull in my revenue. Now, this is kind of a basic model where I don't really care about operating expenses and I mostly just care about revenue, but you can very well drag in different classifications of expenses like your COGS, your maybe fixed expenses, variable expenses, other controllable expenses, things like that. So on this pie chart right here, I have a nice little listing or a nice pie chart with my different customer reps here. So we can add one of those. And let me see here. There is, I want to see what, I want to just add this smart narrative, visual, which is the text-based AI one I showed you earlier. Let me just go ahead and drop that on there. And there we go. So it doesn't have as much insights on this particular screen because as you add more visuals, it's going to layer in more insights because it's making correlations based on the different visuals that you have on here. So, I wanted to just real quickly just show you this before I pause and ask for questions again. But oftentimes you'll have it where maybe each tab might be filtered by a particular criteria, or maybe the entire file, the entire Power BI file is filtered by a particular criteria. So an example of this, of course, you can get a little bit more advanced than this, but or a lot more advanced than this most likely. But what I did is I did a little filter on account number, and I made it so that I only want to see activity for account numbers that start with 4. So this is for a lot of organizations. Any account in the that starts with a 4 is a revenue account, and thus, because of that, all of my metrics are based on revenue. But you could very well filter for a particular range of accounts. You can really hone in on that. And then just to help limit the data, because I have a lot of data here, I just said I don't really care for anything prior to, or I only care about things prior to 8/31/2017. So you can do some advanced filtering and some compound filtering here when it comes to that. So Kate or Nick, do we have any questions right now yet?
No, we are currently still looking good, so keep on going on.
Got it. Okay, cool. So really at this point, I guess one thing I want to see really quick. I know that we're kind of running up against time a little bit. I did want to maybe do a little bit surrounding this. Maybe we'll make a little mini decomposition tree to end up with. But you also have this cool little graphic called Decomposition Tree that I showed you earlier. But just like with other visuals, it asks you, hey, what do you want to analyze? What's like the most broad? What's the most broad measurement you want to dissect? Using another analogy, you can think of whatever I put here in the analyze area, this is the whole onion of knowledge. And I can't remember who used that recently, but I really like that terminology, onion of knowledge. So in this case, the onion of knowledge is made up of my revenue, because that's what I primarily care about right now. So revenue is going to be my base layer of the onion, but as you start peeling off the skin of the onion and start getting into the different layers and things like that, what are we get to define each step of what each layer is. So that's going to be determined in this explain by area. So kind of similar to earlier, what we can do is we can build this out to where I want to explain away my revenue by customer type. Here we go. And I might want to make this a little bit bigger, just so that I know it's overlapping there, but I just think it's fun to look at this. So we explain away by customer type, and then maybe we can explain away by customer rep. And I must have failed when I dragged it on there. Okay. Customer type, customer rep. Maybe I accidentally, I think they went out of order a little bit, but that's okay. I'm not sure the exact results of what of all the results that are going to happen if I do this, but let me just add projects to the mix. Yeah, projects didn't end up really returning anything. So I think the point stands though. I think the point stands though where yeah, you can build these decomposition trees multiple layers deep, and it allows you to peel away all the different layers of knowledge in that onion of knowledge as part of your data. So yeah, that's primarily what I had prepared to show. I know we have a little bit of time at the end for questions, and maybe we can do some on-the-fly demoing, but yeah.
Asked, as one gets started with Power BI, what frustrates them the most? So what is one of the pitfalls of getting started with Power BI that you need to push through so you get to the good stuff?
Just like, yeah, that is an excellent question. The number one thing really as part of any data analytics or data science initiative, it's almost always getting the right data and getting it where you need it to be. So what I mean by that is, yeah, your organization may just have tons and tons and tons of data, but when data is disjointed, like you have data in different databases, but they're not interrelated, that can be kind of problematic. Really, ultimately, just picking out what data is relevant and scrubbing it, cleansing it, maybe reformatting it as needed. That can sometimes be the most frustrating thing to start, because really the thing is there's really different schools of thought on this, but as a common part of data science is like 80% of your time is preparing the data and getting the data, and then the last 20% is actually doing the actual analysis and things like that. It's kind of a similar analogy to that is cooking, right? So if you're cooking a really complex meal, the most work almost goes in, or at least the most time goes in up front, where you're gathering the ingredients, cleaning them, cutting them, prepping them. That's the most time-consuming part of cooking. And then once you get to the point where it actually cooks, it's a lot easier in a lot of cases, and you pretty much just that's really kind of the easy part. You just watch and observe. Mm-hmm. So the next question
here is, can Maynard help me consolidate my data from different sources?
Yes, absolutely. So that's really something that's right in our wheelhouse, because in addition to just supporting ERP systems and supporting Microsoft products in general, a big part of what we do is data integration, systems integration. So let's just say you have a cloud system that holds maybe like one type of data. You have something you have something local on premise that other data is housed, and it's a lot of work to really get those systems talking, or at least combine those bits of data. Yeah, we can certainly help out with that. Sometimes it's a matter of deploying our integration tool MainerLink. So that's a great tool for making disparate systems talk to each other. But also we have tons of experience and tons of ability to build custom applications to aggregate that data. So that's the long answer. The short answer is yes, we can help. We can certainly help you with that.
So Jen asked, and this is Jen, we might need to follow up afterwards, but Jen asked, can it be set up to connect to Sage Intex? She didn't notice it on the import list. And yeah. My short answer was that's Wes's specialty, but I'll let you go ahead and elaborate.
Thank you, Kate. So yeah, Jen. So pretty much, yeah. Intact is not on the listing of these services right here. It does connect to other. Obviously, there's a lot of other connections here. There is not currently a native connection within Power BI to make Sage Intacct talk to Power BI. What I did here, like I mentioned earlier, what I used here is Intacct data. What I did is I used our the way I did it is I used our MainerLink integration tool to go up and grab all the data I want, and then dump it into a SQL table, a data table, that I can then Power BI then picks that up from the table. Now, yeah, MainerLink is a great way to automate and keep your data up to date. If you want to have data like if you want it running on a schedule where you don't have to think about it. But the other option with Intacct is you always have the ability to just export an Excel or CSV file to get you the data you need. So yeah, the answer is Intacct that's currently not natively connected to Sage Intacct, but we can still connect it with our MainerLink integration tool.
What is is there any sort of like documentation or resource for someone who wants to kind of be a little bit more self-sufficient? Obviously, we're a great resource for Power BI, but are there any other resources that you would recommend for somebody who just wants to kind of toy in just a little bit before they reach out to us?
Oh yeah, there's tons of resources out there. So I actually a lot of the resources I kind of used when I first got started up with Power BI is on the Microsoft site. There's a Microsoft Learn site that where there's all these kind of self-guided trainings and articles that you can read about Power BI and pretty much anything in the Microsoft ecosystem. So that's what I did personally. But if you currently have Power BI, if you go under the Help tab here, you can go to guided training. You can have training videos. Yeah, I like how this one links to YouTube. If you go out on YouTube and type in like Power BI training or something like that, the extended like user ecosystem of Power BI is absolutely enormous. So if you go to YouTube and just punch in Power BI, there's going to be thousands of videos just about Power BI and how to get started on Power BI. So that'd be a great way to learn if you're more of a visual person like that. Otherwise, probably going through the documentation would probably do the trick. But if you want to get up to speed quickly, probably just go on YouTube.
Perfect. So, of course, the question of pricing has come on. If you guys have questions about that specifically, we would probably take that offline to make sure that we have the full breadth of what you already have available in a potential O365 licensing and things like that. So it's going to be a little bit more dependent on what we have, what we can do. what specific Mainer pricing you have, non-for-profit, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So pricing wise, definitely you can reach out to me and feel free we can have that discussion.
Yep. Yep, definitely, because I know that yeah, there's definitely a bunch of variables with pricing that affect it. But yep.
Perfect. Do we have any more questions we have rolling here? We've had a lot of questions. I've enjoyed that. That's probably the best part of the presentation.
Yeah, whenever you get to the end of an hour-long presentation, or however many minutes I ended up presenting, with Nick and I, however long if no one has asked any questions, that probably means it wasn't that great, because it's not. It didn't end up being that interesting. So it's very good feedback to hear that we have a lot of questions surrounding this product, and really, I just wanted to underscore just the fact that. Data analytics, especially in this decade, it's just becoming more and more important. Utilizing tools like this can very well be the difference between, like I said earlier, just squeezing just an extra bit of, just gathering a little bit more revenue, or cutting down on your costs to get that last little bit of net income, or get that positive outcome on your programs to really make a difference in your organization.
Perfect. So Nick and Wes, I want to take a moment. Obviously, thank you guys. I want to share my input always with anyone who's working with Power BI is that they have quite a bit of maneuverability and ability to make quick decisions based on their data. So anyone who is interested in it, I highly encourage you to reach out. We would love to work with you. Obviously, I will reach out to attendees and make sure that you guys, if you need anything, that we are right on. But the maneuverability and adjustability based on your data, especially as we're creeping through a pandemic and getting our feet back under us, we want to make sure businesses have the ability to be agile. So huge thank you to Nick and Wes. All right, well, thank you guys for being an amazing resource for us. If anyone needs anything from us, we have about 3 more minutes left of your day that we're going to hopefully get back to you. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful Wednesday.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.